What is going on, Ballislife family? I'm Devin Uglin, and I'm here with my co-host Ronnie Flores, and this is the Ballislife original show, On the Rise. On today's episode, we're taking a closer look at USC forward Evan Mobley, who was recently named the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year and Pac-12 Player of the Year. Ronnie, we followed Evan a lot in his high school career, so why don't you give us the rundown of his full prep highlights?
Yeah, Devin, I'm glad to be back here for another episode of On the Rise. And obviously, like you said, Evan Mobley is a player we follow closely. Went to Rancho Christian High School in Temecula, California. He's a lifelong Southern California guy. And he really blew up. He was always known as a big prospect. He really blew up his junior year. And really, to be cut short into the chase, he was the best true post player in the country as a senior. You could even argue he was the best true post player as a junior. He actually went head to head with James Wiseman in a memorable game, and many people say he outplayed him. And the game was in Memphis against Memphis East, James Wiseman's high school when he was a junior. So as a junior, averaged about 19 and a half points, 10.4 rebounds, almost 5 blocks, 3.3 assists, and really was a National Player of the Year candidate. He was up there with Isaiah Stewart, the eventual winner in 2019, and Cole Anthony. Then he came back his senior year, and now he was battling for National Player of the Year honors with the guys he's battling number one in this 2021 NBA draft, Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green. But interestingly enough, Devin, even in 220, he wasn't even named the Riverside County Player of the Year. And we'll get into more of that, like his honors and his local honors and how that transpired when we talk about his strengths and weaknesses.
Thanks, Ronnie. Yeah, now we're going to transition and jump into the strengths of Evan Mobley. I will be first to start here. And obviously, as everybody knows from watching any Pac-12 game, any Rancho Christian game, Evan Mobley is a game changer on the defensive end of the floor. 7 feet, mobile, ability to time and block shots, change shots around the basket. His instincts as a defensive guy are second to none. And what I like most about him defensively, Ronnie, aside from the shot blocking, because obviously that's the kind of the number and the metric that we see. And at USC, he's averaging 3 blocks a game. In high school, like you said, he averaged more than 5 blocks a game, which is insane. But
Sure.
what I like about him defensively is his mobility and his ability to get out and switch onto guards and contain guards in ball screen or hedge, recover to his guy, block a shot and get the rebound and start a fast break. And then he's great in transition offensively, Ronnie, because he's so
Sure.
mobile, he's so fluid. He gets up and down the court, fluidly and quickly. And around the basket, his hands are great. He can catch, passes that are off target. He can, adjust his body as needed. He's got great body control, and he's so quick off the ground with his first and second jumps that, any shot blocker who can, jump with him probably can't jump as quick as he can. So if he misses a chippy inside, he's going to get that second jump and tip the ball in for second chance opportunities. And then another thing with Evan, Ronnie, that we both know he's trying to let the NBA know is he has some perimeter skill. He has the ability to hit a pick and pop face up shot. If he has a smaller defender on him, he can, shoot over them. If he has a bigger defender on him or a slower guy or a guy who's not quite as mobile as he is, he can put it on the deck a little bit and get by a guy and get to the basket. He's shooting 31.4% from three on the college season. And I think when we get into the weaknesses, that's something we're going to talk about. But he can hit those shots. He can make free throws at a decent clip. And I really like Evan in screen roll action, Ronnie, because he can set a good screen, even though he's kind of frail of size and his body's not super like thick, right? But
Sure.
sets a good screen. He has the footwork and the fluid athleticism to roll to the basket, get up for lobs, and finish lob passes or even post up a guy and get position and finish with like a hook shot or something like that. But yeah, he can pick and pop, hit the face up jumper with time and space. But I think biggest strengths, Ronnie, and what our NBA teams are so intrigued by is the fact that he's going to be a defensive game changer at the very least as soon as he gets into the NBA. Ronnie, let's jump into your strengths.
Yeah, Devin. Those are great points. And I think, like you said, just the fluidity is my main point because obviously we'd share many of these main points. His best attribute to me is just his ability to run up and down the floor and with ease. People think, okay, why is that such a great attribute. A lot of NBA players, even guys that are just tall guys, they quote unquote can't walk and chew gum, as we say. He just can get from foul line to foul line, or get from the block to the other block so easily and so quickly. It's effortless, and that's just when you look at his ideal NBA size and length. Even if he didn't have that effortless motion, he'd still be a good prospect with his ideal size and length. I mean, as you mentioned, a good coordination with the soft hands. And he actually has a coordination of a guy probably closer to 6'5", 6'6". When I think of some of the things he does, I remember the prospect Andrew Wiggins was. Now, obviously, Andrew Wiggins is a perimeter player, but you mentioned the quick leaps and the ability to jump the second time, and that's what he does, but he does it at 7 foot. And obviously, Andrew Wiggins is a pretty good NBA player. Obviously, he has some of his detractors, but he's still a number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So when you see what he does at 7 feet, I mean, it's one of those things. We always talk about basketball, how even the person who's a little bit of a novice scout or hasn't been following the game that well can just see that guy is somebody like, hey, he's going to be pretty good. So I think those are his attributes there. I don't think you have to break it down, because I said there's not really much to gripe on or pick on in that regard. His legs are just really lively. He did have a little bit of some injuries when he was younger. He was growing so fast. He only played 5 games his 9th grade year at Rancho Christian. A lot of people don't know that. And then he started getting into the groove in 10th grade, and then he just exploded onto like one of the best players in the country by his junior year. And I think people expected that. We always expected that. But so those are the strengths. Devin, why don't you talk a little bit about what you saw, especially kind of, you talked about the team concept with Rancho Christian and USC, and why people nitpick him, and is that really fair to him? Is that going to be what maybe caused him to go 2nd or 3rd in this draft? Let's talk about his weaknesses.
Yeah, Ryan, your strengths are on spot, because obviously we agree on a lot of what Evan Mobley does well. And another thing I missed that I want to bring up before we jump into weaknesses, he's a great passer, high post, low post,
Sure.
out of double teams, finds, good entry passer. If you look at his brother, him and Isaiah played high-low basketball a lot at Rancho Christian, and he was just a great passer. So that's another strength I wanted to bring up before we jumped into weaknesses. But yeah, Ronnie, everyone is always nitpicking Evan because of his personality or his approach to the game isn't right. He doesn't have like a fiery factor about him. He's very poised. He's very under control. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. He reminds me of Lonzo Ball a lot in that way, to where you don't really know if they're like, you're like, are these guys playing hard or are they going through the motions? But that's not the case with Evan, nor was it the case with Lonzo. They don't show a lot of emotion. They're not dunking on people and flexing and screaming and things like that. So a lot of people get activity mixed up with just being overly, demonstrative when it comes to playing, like, finishing a lob and like hanging on the rim and, pumping your fist and all that. Evan doesn't do that. He's very mature. He's very, like I said, poised and kind of to himself. And I kind of like that about him. To me, that's a strength, but that's what people nitpick him on. Maybe they think he's not aggressive enough offensively. He doesn't, force the issue. He lets the game come to him too much. But Ronnie, I really like
that. A big, how big of a detraction is that, Devin? Really, if you think, even if I know you don't think it's one, but how big of distraction can it even be? I mean, considering his skill, his size, his length, everything he does.
I think if you're looking for a reason to nitpick a player, then sure, you can bring that up, and that's fair. But like, if you're an NBA franchise and you're thinking of drafting, Evan Mobley 1, 2, or 3, that isn't an issue to me, because it's all about production. And Evan Mobley pretty much is always produced. He doesn't force the issue. Like we said, remember that game against Etowanda that a lot of people nitpicked when he had 7 points in the California State playoffs last summer.
Yeah.
I mean, last
game.
Yeah, his last game. And he had 7 points and, I think it was like 8 or 9 rebounds and 5 blocks. A lot of people were like, well, the number one, post player in the country shouldn't have those games. They weren't at that game. He was getting triple teamed by Etowanda, which is a great defensive program. And he was finding open guys, and those guys just in that game just didn't make shots. So I think the biggest area of improvement for Evan, Ronnie, is finding that identity. Are you an interior player, or do you want to be a guy who floats on the perimeter a lot and, is mainly focused on pick and pop shots? Evan has the skill set low post wise to be a back to the basket scorer in the NBA. He also has the face up skill set and the ball skills to be a guy who can pop onto the perimeter and do some things. Now it's finding that middle ground of balance of get inside, do some damage there, and then take those pick and pop opportunities to also do damage as a face up perimeter guy. And that you look at, we'll get into comparables in a little bit, but guys who do that well, LaMarcus Aldridge, Kevin Garnett, and I think he needs to find that balance, and be a guy who dominates inside first and then moves out as the game dictates. And
sure,
just from a percentage standpoint, Ronnie, I think you look at his 3-point shooting at the college level, he's shooting 31% from three. On 35 shot attempts heading into the NCAA tournament. That's not terrible. That's not great. But if you're going to be an NBA, stretch 4 or 5 who shoots a lot of threes like Porzingis, you got to have a better percentage from three. Let's jump into your weaknesses here, Ronnie.
Yeah. Speaking of those weaknesses, like you said, I was very interested in learn how many shots he took on that 32%. And as you said, so 35, he's shooting 1.5 per game, maybe 1.3 shots per game. It's not enough. So if he shot 3 or 4, his percentage either go way up or go way down. That's the thing we always talk about players and they shoot threes. Well, if you only shoot 1 a game, your percentage can really fluctuate a lot. It's not a true indication, especially at the NBA line of what he's going to do. Obviously he has some skill out there, but yeah, that's my thing too. With one of his weaknesses is why do we want him to do that? I want him to dominate inside. Nobody can jump with him. Nobody has the ability to you really stick him. You said if he gets some good back to the basket moves, some half hooks, up and unders, he's going to put the defense at such a disadvantage and in such pressure, get guys into foul trouble. I don't know why I'd want him shooting too many perimeter shots or handling the ball. That's a plus, and he can do that. And I understand that's a catch-22 and a high point for like guys on TV to point out and look what he can do. And I get that the NBA is a lot of perimeter oriented, but with this guy, why? He's 7 foot and he's agile and he can move and he can jump. And he's, shown that he can stay on the floor, stay out of foul trouble. He's smart, doesn't get out of position a lot. Like you said, he has a cool and calm demeanor. He doesn't get too demonstrative. Like really, when you looked at him at Rancho Christian, you're thinking, God, the guy plays like he does, like he's playing on a Nerf hoop. There's not too many guys we've ever had in California like that, even other centers. Onyeka Okongwu is not like that, and he's the number 6 pick of the draft. Right. Some other big men that have made the NBA, they're not like that. Evan is almost like the rim's too low for him. Like he could play at 10.5 feet and still be dominant. You know what I mean? So there's not, I don't know if we're saying weaknesses, but that's obviously positives. But so, it's very hard to nitpick those weaknesses. I just don't think he needs to concentrate that too much, especially if he's in an NBA team and he has 3 or 4 other good perimeter shooters. I don't see that. It's not making him. You can't go much higher than the number 1 pick, and he has the ability to be the number 1 pick without that shit. So like I really don't get it. Look at all the positive he does, and like you said, I think another thing, and again we're talking about negatives, and I'm bringing up more positives is his just demeanor, and like he's a character kid who, like you said, gonna want to help his teammates get better, gonna want to be there on time, be reliable for them. And so I just think maybe the weakness is maybe just taking a little bit more alpha mentality that I am going to take over a game, because he has the talent level to warrant for him to take over a game. I think you want to see that in all these guys, whether they're young or not. LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Green, the guys who just went in the 220 draft. That's what their teams want. They want them at some point to lead. So I think that's where Evan's going to have to lead. And he kind of showed flashes of that with Compton Magic. They really didn't get it done with the Rancho Christian the way he wanted to. And we'll see with SC. They have 3-3 in their last 6 games. They're entering the NCAA tournament as a 6th seed. So I think people want to see what Evan can really do for this team-wise.
Yeah, I think with demeanor-wise and kind of mentality, Ronnie, I think the weaknesses that people draw to that are like, okay, are you going to be Chris Bosh, Clint Capella, or are you going to be Kevin Garnett? And there's really only one Kevin Garnett, and that's a guy who is difficult to compare to. But let's jump into our comparisons. Okay, Ronnie, we're going to jump into our NBA comparisons for Evan Mobley. Why don't you start with us here?
Yeah, Evan's NBA comparison, again, we're talking about dominating a game and moving, being the number one type pick to dominate the franchise. But I don't really look at him like that. And that's not a knock to say that he can't be that guy, or that's not warranting of him being number one, because he's not like that. Like you said, I think if you look at a Chris Bosh, I like that comparison. Obviously, Chris spent a lot of time with the Raptors and then found his niche with the Miami Heat. Stromile Swift, who was a high NBA draft choice, but he had some injuries in the early 2000s. Very lanky, very long, like Evan. The two ones I like the most are Sam Bowie. Now, everybody obviously makes fun of Sam Bowie because he comes out in Jay-Z's song as being picked over Michael Jordan. The problem with Sam Bowie with that is, and the problem with always bagging on him is, he was a freak like Evan before his injuries. And he even said it in his SEC stories. Go watch that if you get a chance on the SEC network. Obviously, he went to the University of Kentucky. He was a number one type player like Evan Mobley, him and Ralph Sampson. And Sam Bowie was just a freak type player. But he even said, I was injured. I knew I was injured at Kentucky. He missed the season, Devin. But he said going into the NBA draft, and remember, this is 1984. The pre-medical evaluations are a lot different than they are now. He said, I knew I was hurt. I didn't tell Portland or any other team because, hey, I wanted to feed my family. Like, I wasn't going to say anything. So, and even with all that, he still averaged 10.9, 7.5, and was double figures in 6 of his first 7 seasons. So I still like that comparison. The last one I wanted to mention was Miles Turner. I think we always looked at Miles Turner as a guy, man, how good is he? 247 had him number 7. ESPN had him number 2. So I think ESPN was onto something there. Maybe they overlooked his body and maybe some of his nagging injuries, and Rivals had him 9. I think people just thought, man, I think his body's going to give out and he's not going to be durable in the NBA, because he obviously had shot blocking ability. But you know what, Devin, if Evan Mobley leads the league in blocks 2 times in his first 5 or 6 seasons, that'd be pretty good. And that's what Miles Turner has been able to do. So I like those, Bowie. I like Miles Turner, Chris Bosh. When you talk about Chris Bosh, and he was ranked 4 by one publication and he was ranked 5 by the other. I think Evan's a little better, has a better ceiling than that. But is he going to be where he's going to join a good team one day, Evan, or develop his franchise into a good team? And is he going to be the second or third option like Chris Bosh, or is he going to lead a team to an NBA type finals or title? I mean, that's the big question with Evan Mobley.
For sure. Yeah, it's kind of what role does he fit into? Is he a superstar, or is he a role player? And like we all know, Ronnie, 99% of NBA players are role players, right? There's 1% of the guys in the league are the superstars. So I like a couple of yours. We agree on Chris Bosh. We agree on Stromile Swift, just from a body standpoint. I didn't see a whole lot of Sam Bowie because obviously I was born in 1987 and that was before my time. So I'm going to go back and watch that SEC story, like you said, and just check that out and see what similarities I can draw between the two. But yeah, let's just off topic. Let's leave Sam Bowie alone. He didn't ask to be picked. Sure. He was picked. All right. My comps, defensively, immediate impact wise, Ronnie, Tyson Chandler comes to mind. Yes. Just from a off the floor standpoint, defensive instincts, energy, get up and down the court. That's what he reminds me of. I think Clint Capella is a good one too. A lot of people, Evan's more skilled than Clint Capella, but again, Capella is a really good defensive player, good rebounder, great, pick and roll finisher above the rim. And I think Evan can be an immediate impact guy in that way. More up-to-date comparison, Ronnie, for, our younger listeners, Jaren Jackson Jr. went to Michigan State. He's been battling injuries at Memphis, but they have similar body types, similar games, similar kind of the way they move is very, very similar. Chris Bosh, obviously, I think Evan Mobley's a better defender by far and away than Chris Bosh, right now than Chris Bosh ever was. But offensively, I think Evan can take a lot from what Chris Bosh did with Toronto and what he did with Miami. A guy I like and a guy who I think mentality-wise, Evan Mobley can kind of watch and take a lot from is Amari Stoudemire. I think they both have, Amari was, I guess, a more power type player.
Yeah.
More power finisher and more explosive, but still.
That's the young Amari. Yeah.
The way that they're going to be utilized at the next level, especially early on in their careers, I think is going to be pretty similar. And a guy who I like, another guy who is probably not as good defensively as Evan, but is better offensively, LaMarcus Aldridge. Um, Finding that mid post fadeaway type thing that LaMarcus has, and the back to the basket ability and finishing ability that LaMarcus has shown with Portland and with San Antonio, that will benefit Evan and make him just a guy who's basically unguardable at the NBA level if he can get that type of mid post game. A lot of people you'll hear from people on TV during March Madness for however long USC's in the tournament. There, you're going to hear a lot of Kevin Garnett comparisons. And again, we go through this every episode. That's a Hall of Fame player, one of the greatest power forwards of all time. If Evan Mobley can get anywhere near Kevin Garnett and have that baseline fadeaway that KG had with Minnesota, which is, I think, probably, Ronnie, a top 5 unguardable shot in NBA history, having Kevin Garnett being, 6'10", 6'11", and then the baseline fadeaway he hit it like 60%. You know what I mean? That's a really, really high ceiling. But again, if he can reach anywhere near that ceiling, that would be great for Evan. And I think he can. He's a hard worker. He's his head's always in the game. He's never, never worry about him off the court. So the guys I like, new age guys, Jaren Jackson Jr., older guys, Amari Stoudemire, Chris Bosh, Tyson Chandler defensively. And then if he can get anywhere near the offensive skill set that LaMarcus Aldridge has, he's going to be a really, really good long-term NBA player.
Yeah, I love those comparisons. We agree on some. Obviously, I like your LaMarcus Aldridge comparisons. Very interesting, some of the guys we mentioned. I'll start with LaMarcus. His rankings, Rival 16, Hoop Scoop 25, All-Star Sports 15. It's pretty low for a guy of his skills. Even Jaren Jackson, 247, number 8, ESPN 8, Rival 6. When I saw Jaren Jackson in Phoenix and other places, he looked like a young Shawn Kemp. So, again, I think Evan defensively is a lot better than some of these guys we mentioned. He's better than Sam Bowie. He's not Kevin Garnett, but he's, Miles Turner. He could be a combination of like a LaMarcus Aldridge and a Miles Turner.
Sure.
You can't, we're talking about a good player, and he's ranked. Again, every class is different, and Evan come from a great class. The 220 class is great, as we know, heading into 221 draft. He's higher ranked than all these guys, except for the old school guy, Sam Bowie, really. Miles Turner, 6'7", 2'9". I'm just looking at these. Chris Bosh, 5'4". Like I already mentioned, Aldridge, Jaren Jackson, Tyson Chandler, 3, in the 3-2 range. So very interesting how it's easy to, like Will Chamberlain said, nobody likes Goliath. So everybody's always trying to knock Evan Mobley, but what is really there to knock? The guys he's comparing to, who many of them are multiple NBA All-Stars, he's ranked higher than them, and people expect more from him than those guys, and they're pretty good. So, Devin, who do you like, real quick, as we wrap this up, the low ceiling and the safe bet as far as your comparable?
Okay. Yeah, I think the low ceiling is Clint Capella. And I mean, people are going to laugh at Clint Capella, but I mean, he's productive. He's a productive NBA player. He's a productive defender. He's a productive rebounder, and he fits in well with how the NBA is right now. I think the higher end ceiling for me, Ronnie, overall package, offensively, defensively, is Amari Stoudemire.
Okay.
I think Evan's going to make a living off of screen roll basketball, finishing around the basket. And Amari, before his injuries, and unfortunately, his great production was cut short, way sooner than it should have due to injuries, an eye injury, and he was a good face up guy. Face up, go by somebody, dunk on somebody. I think Evan has those similar abilities: draw foul, get to the free throw line, and make free throws. I think Evan has a similar ability to that. DeAndre Jordan's another safe bet, I think, just from an impact standpoint, and defensively very similar. Him and Evan Mobley. What is your low end comp, and what is your safe bet?
Yeah, the guys I like on the low end, he could be like a Chris Bosh. I like that if he continues to develop offensively, and then he's part of an NBA type championship team where he's a complementary player to another great player. That just fits his mentality. So I can see that. I don't hope for that for him, really, to tell you, be honest. And then on the high end, I like, like the safe bet high ceiling. And obviously I don't want to go too far over, he's going to be an all-time NBA great, is LaMarcus Aldridge and a combination of Tyson Chandler. So it's easy to say, well, Tyson Chandler, you want that from a number 1 pick. Tyson was the number 2 pick. Yeah, but Tyson has been around in the NBA 17, 18 years. He's won NBA Defensive Player of the Year. And if he can gain a little bit more of Aldridge's skill set offensively, obviously he's much better shot blocker than LaMarcus. LaMarcus is a 7-time All-Star and averaged over 20 points for 7 seasons. So I think that's a good goal for Evan. If you say, hey, if I'm doing that, if Evan could be a 7-time All-Star and also win NBA Defensive Player of the Year, I think he's going to have a hell of a career.
All right, Ronnie, we're going to jump now into our future forecast and kind of discuss Evan's, NBA draft positioning. I think, Ronnie, and we'll just get straight into it, man. We're looking at, the top 3, top 4 of Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Kuminga. Those are the guys who I see as those, 5 in contention for the top 3 picks. When I look at it and I look at numbers, look at impact, look at style of play, look at who can come in and make an immediate impact for my franchise and have a high ceiling, but also a low floor, as we like to say.
Sure.
It's Evan Mobley at number 1. He's the safest pick because you know what you're getting defensively. You know you're getting a 7-footer who's mobile. You know you're getting a 7-footer who can step out on the perimeter, take guys off the dribble a little bit. And then with NBA spacing, I mean, those driving lanes just become even bigger, Ronnie. And, drawing double teams or drawing triple teams in the post and kicking to shooters, you're more likely to gather assists at the NBA level than you are at the college level.
Yeah, it's congested in college. There's some of your teammates are not as talented as you, and they know that. Look at Evan. He's a Pac-12 Player of the Year. As a freshman, people expected that, and he wasn't even the high school Player of the Year in many regards. So that just shows you his ability and his level. So I agree with you there. I don't know if you want to finish your any other points, but Evan Mobley, I just think, Devin, I want you to talk about this scenario real quick. Mm-hmm. SC plays against the winner of the play-in, Drake, Wichita State, I believe. They're the 6th seed. Again, they're 3-3. They did good in the Pac-12. They didn't do great, but they did good. So Evan Mobley, they get knocked out in the first round. And Jalen Suggs leads Gonzaga to an undefeated season. Cade Cunningham, has some big shots, as he's known to do. If USC gets knocked out in the first or second round, does that old tune come up? He can't lead. He's not an alpha. Where do you think that plays into this draft? How much, in other words, how much stock do you put in this NCAA tournament?
With the top 3, 4, 5 picks, obviously 2 of the top 5 guys who I have on my list are not in the NCAA tournament. They're G League guys. I just, to me, it doesn't matter, man. Especially nowadays. Okay. Especially nowadays. I think it's great, when guys lead their teams and you can see, how they play in big moments. But any NCAA tournament game right now is a big moment for these guys. And you can kind of see. So say Evan Mobley and USC play Wichita State. Great team, great defensive team. Evan Mobley has 26 points, 10 rebounds, like he did in a loss in the Pac-12 tournament to Colorado. They lost by 2 to Colorado in the semifinals of the Pac-12 tournament. Evan had 26 and, double-double. That doesn't, he has that against Wichita State and they lose. To me, that doesnent knock him very much.
That doesn't knock him.
He still had 26 and 10 and 3 blocks. Like, he's still he's still a 19, 20-year-old 7-footer who, has an NBA style skill set and style of play. So I think, especially with NBA franchises being able to, watch film, watch high school games, watch high school all-star games, whatever it may be, they have a good feel for which guys they like and which guys project to the next level, no matter what their college programs team stats or team win-loss record looks like or how far they go in the NCAA tournament. I don't think a guy of Evan Mobley's stature would be hurt by a first-round exit in the NCAA tournament. I think the NCAA tournament now is really for guys who are borderline NBA draft picks to really boost their stock and get into their second or first round conversation. I'm going. I agree with that. First round pick. Lottery pick, number 1 overall. Depends on who picks, but I think Evan Mobley is the safest bet as far as his body type, his style of play, and what he can do impact wise on the defensive end as soon as he gets to the league.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The 2 points I would like to make are, like you said, it's not so much hurt Evan, but I think it really can help Jalen Suggs if they go to the final game or if they win the tournament and they're undefeated. I think some team will be like, wow, he's such a leader. that's what they're going to want. So like you said, I don't think it'll hurt Evan, but I think it can help a player like Jalen Suggs move up a spot or two. And then, like you said, you know, when you look at those guys, even a Jonathan Kameen, a Jalen Green, a 6'4", Jonathan Kameen is 6'7", whatever it is, Devin, there's not too many guys in America that are 6'10" and above, and there's not too many guys that are 6'10" and above that can move. Yeah. So and move like a guy 6'5". So I've heard stats where there's like 32 to 3,500 guys of NBA playing age, which is like 18 to 35 that are 6'10" and above. There's only 33,000 of them in the country at any given time. So Evan Mobley's like one of a guy who can move and move like you want a 7-footer to move. Like, man, that's what I see. So like I said, I just think his low end ceiling or his basement is just, it's almost like nil and void. He's going to be, he's going to be a pretty good player, where there's some question marks about almost every other one of the guys. And we're going to break more of these guys down on future episodes of On the Rise.
As you mentioned, Ronnie, yeah, we have a bunch of On the Rise episodes already on our Ballislife Podcast Network YouTube page. Make sure you guys head to YouTube, type in Ballislife Podcast Network. You can check out our breakdowns of Cade Cunningham, Sharif Cooper, Chet Holmgren, J.D. Davison, all the future stars, potential future stars in the NBA. We appreciate you guys tuning in each week with us for On the Rise. But until the next episode, Ronnie and Devin are signing off.
What's up, Ballislife fam? Thanks for watching this video. If you want to support the movement, make sure you check out the product listing below this video and cop some of this merch.